Yeah, I'm also at 102 right now. I have Brandon Smith at 80.
Yeah, one of those guys probably are. There probably is going to be one of those athletic guys who just sneaks in, though, because it's how this normally goes. And it's going to be a bad pick. I hope it's not Washington.
Welcome to another episode of Boom or Bust, the draft show. Max Chadwick alongside Nick Merriam and Donny Clemons. Another mock draft 6.0 for you guys. It is officially draft season. The Super Bowl is over. We now know the full order of the 2022 NFL draft. So we're going to do a 2-round mock draft this time, not a 1-round. We got 2-round mock draft coming up. We got our big boards that we're making right now. We're almost done with it, and that might come out pretty soon. So we know a lot about all of these prospects. We've got at least probably top 100, top 150 so far. And so this is what we would do for the first 64 picks. What we would do, not what we think will happen, and no trades are allowed in this mock draft either. As always, please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Boom or Bust Draft. Check out our website, Full Mock Drafts. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, anywhere to stay up to date on all of our latest content. Please rate us 5 stars. Leave a review, too. Keep commenting below what videos you guys want to see, what you think about our mock draft after you hear it. Hit our merch store. Also, follow our personal accounts, too, at @chat_Max for me, at Nick with Sports for Nick, and at Pick and Spreads for Donnie. Also on TikTok, at Pick and Spreads for Donnie. So let's go to this mock draft. For the second year in a row, the Jaguars have the first overall pick, and I know a lot of people are saying you got to be helping out your past number 1 overall pick, Trevor Lawrence. I don't think this is the draft to do it. I think the Jaguars, who have so much cap space, go into the offseason with that goal in mind, help out Trevor Lawrence. But with the first overall pick, you got to take the best player available. In my opinion, that is Aiden Hutchinson, the edge defender from Michigan. He was absolutely dominant this year. Jaguars simply need talent. They don't need a quarterback. They don't need a running back, but they need every freaking thing else. So I think Aiden Hutchinson would fit a pretty decent need with Josh Allen there. Caleb Von Chasen hasn't really worked out, so I like Aiden Hutchinson here to the Jaguars.
I have the Lions at 2, and they also need to improve their pass rush. And why not take the former teammate of Penei Sewell, Kayvon Thibodeau, the edge rusher from Oregon, freak athlete with all the tools you want. Just got to develop him. And I think if it could happen anywhere, I think it could happen in Detroit. So, yeah, Kayvon Thibodeau to the Lions at 2.
Number 3 is the Texans. Nick Casario's over there as a GM, used to be with the Patriots. Of course, New England known for being kind of outside the box and thinking and tooling their defense, getting a bunch of guys with different skill sets. There have been some connections between them and Kyle Hamilton over the past few weeks. So not only is this something that I would do, but I think it's something that might actually happen. I like Kyle Hamilton at 3 to Houston. My rule with them has been when doing mock drafts for them, because I think they're going to be bad this year regardless. They either will have a chance to get a quarterback next year, so give Davis Mills a year and just take the top player on the board no matter what the position is. In this case, I think Kyle Hamilton has been a stud all year. Guy who obviously, size, traits, athleticism, production, everything's there. The injury's a little bit concerning, but I still think he goes high in this draft, and I like the connection there for him at number 3 to the Texans.
So I got the Jets here at 4, who are kind of in the same spot as the Jaguars are. A lot of Jets fans are saying, we just got to help out Zach Wilson. Whatever he needs, we need to help him out. I kind of push back on that again, and I say, hey, listen, that defense, man, especially that secondary, you need help in that secondary. The Jets, their 4 most played corners this year were either day 3 picks or undrafted players.
Shout out Michael Carter.
Michael Carter actually was pretty good, I will say that. But listen, man, you need some help in that secondary. You need some blue chip players, and there's nobody more blue chip in the cornerback class than Derek Stingley Jr., in my opinion, the corner from LSU. I know a lot of people are so afraid of that injury history and the fact that his best tape was in 2019 when Joe Burrow was winning a national championship. I see those concerns, but listen, what he showed on tape and those traits that he has, he can be a superstar corner in the league, and the Jets desperately need that.
I have the Giants at 5, and I feel like this is just going to be a continuation of every other mock draft that I have ever done with the Boom Bus. I'm going to be taking Evan Neal, the tackle from Alabama. Not my tackle 1. Not, but like I said many other times, he's going to explode the combine, and he's probably going to impress at interviews. And I think, I'm more high on Evan Neal than I was like maybe about a month ago. I really am. Ever since our video, I've liked him a bit more. I think the tackle one debate for me personally between him and Aquanu is a lot closer. But I do think the Giants snag up Evan Neal at number 5.
Oh, that'd be such a Dave Gettleman pick too. Unfortunately, unfortunately, he's not there for the Giants anymore.
Yeah, I don't know about unfortunately, but yeah.
No, definitely fortunately. All right, the Panthers here at 6. I've done this pick before, and you're gonna see it in our new big board. He might be pushed up our big board because I am so freaking high on him. Sam Howell, who I have actually as a 6th overall player, so I think this is good value for the Panthers here. Listen, you desperately need quarterback help. You cannot do what you had last year. Matt Rule is literally coaching for his job. There's a report that came out that other coaches believe he's a lame duck right now, and it's just a question of when, not if, he'll be fired. You need to do something and make a splash, man. I think making a splash is taking, in my opinion, the top quarterback in this class, staying in Carolina, Sam Howell.
Okay, Giants fans, hear me out for a second. Daniel Jones is not good. He's not good. He's shown very little to be a franchise quarterback. I don't care you got Brian Daboll. Daniel Jones is not good. Brian Daboll was able to do something that we all thought was probably going to be impossible. Develop Josh Allen into not only a good quarterback, a top-tier elite quarterback. Like, he is on the same tier as guys with, he's on the same tier arguably as Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
Why not take a guy who has maybe not as high of a ceiling, but almost as high of a ceiling, who has these unbelievable physical tools, and you have the coach who can develop him, Brian Daboll. I'm taking Malik Willis at 7. I think Daniel Jones is not your answer. He's never been your answer since you drafted him. And Malik Willis has the ceiling to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I mean, this is Lamar Jackson with a stronger arm. Like, what more do you want? Like, yes, his IQ and accuracy need a lot of improvement, but if there's anybody who can do it, it's Brian Daboll. So I'm taking Malik Willis at 7.
I actually love that fit. It'd be a little scary over here as a Washington fan to see that happen. Falcons at 8. Frustrating. They keep losing talent and having to replace it. They lost Julio. There's a chance Calvin Ridley's gone for trade. So receiver has become a need again. And it lines up with my top player on the board at this point, which is Garrett Wilson, the wide receiver from Ohio State, who I am higher on than most. I think he's a high floor player. He kind of reminds me a bit of Ridley coming out, just in not as a player, but just kind of the way that I think we're talking about him translating to the pros, and that I don't think there's a lot of ways that this guy busts going in the NFL. I think he's just going to be a plug and play, and at the very least will be a really good wide receiver too for a team. And I think Atlanta is likely going to need to add to that receiver position again now that they are, down. It's at that after losing Julio and potentially Ridley. It's frustrating because they've been kind of trying to rebuild their defense as their offense stays good for so long. And now you're in a spot where the defense didn't get fixed. The offense needs pieces again. But at this point, you're not in a bad position to just take the best player on the board, and that's Garrett Wilson for me. So I'll take him at 8.
All right, so just recap the first 8 picks. The Jaguars took Aiden Hutchinson. The Lions took Kayvon Thibodeau. Texans took Kyle Hamilton. Jets took Derek Stingley Jr. Giants took Evan Neal. Panthers took Sam Howell. Giants again took Malik Willis, and the Falcons took Garrett Wilson. So I am up here with the Broncos with the 9th pick, and I know a lot of people probably want a quarterback here. I don't know if there's one I would take this high. I think the only one who I'd take this high is probably Sam Howell, and I understand the Malik Willis hype is getting up there. I'm going to go with what I think might be their second biggest need, even though they got a stud in Patrick Surtain. They need another corner, I think. And I think Ahmad Sauce Gardner, who I have as a top 10 player on my big board, is worth it here for the Broncos at 9. And I think you pair him with Patrick Surtain. I mean, those are two stud corners. Like, that secondary in Denver will be terrifying for years to come. I got the Jets again via Seattle for the Jamal Adams trade at 10. And I'm going to go with the guy who is the best available player on my board, and I think kind of fits a need for them as well, Tyler Linderbaum, the center from Iowa. And I understand this is probably a little high for a lot of people for a center, but not him. I think this guy, without positional value, take that completely out of the question, he is the best prospect in this draft. If you were just drafting who's the best football player at their position, I would say he's number 1, and probably Kyle Hamilton is number 2. Tyler Linderbaum is going to be a superstar center. I think the Jets, who need help on offense, he's the best offensive prospect remaining in this draft for me.
And we hear from PJ that Jets fans would love that. They're banging the table for their next Nick Mangold, and hopefully it's Tyler Linderbaum. All right, so this one's a little weird. The Commanders at 11. Ugh, I can't get used to that still.
That's so weird.
It's so weird. I had to get
We'll
used
get
to
used
calling
to
them
it.
Washington
We
for a
got
while
used to
now.
football team. We can
Yeah.
get used to this.
Yeah. But we're going to take Charles Cross here, the tackle from Mississippi State, to be your left tackle of the future. I know they just signed Charles Atlanta, but I believe so much in Cross as a safe Pro Bowl left tackle of the future for any team that I think that this is just a great value pick for them at 11 here. He's the best player on the board. Tough thing here is they really need quarterback, and I wouldn't be shocked if they weren't picking here at 11 if they should ship this pick off to get a quarterback, say like a Derek Carr or a Russell Wilson, or hopefully not, maybe a Jimmy Garoppolo. There is Matt Corral here. He's my top QB. He's the 11th player on my board, or 12th player on my board, something like that. So it kind of aligns in terms of value. The issue I have, I just think, is that Cross is a better prospect by a good amount, and I think I don't really love, shooting for a quarterback here when you can at least get a really good player at a higher pick. It's a weird position to be in because there might be a guy at 42. So at this position, you try to wheel a quarterback on the other side here and get him in the second round, see what happens.
I have the Minnesota Vikings at 12, and I've come to realize something about this cornerback class. Derek Stingley, CB1. The rest, I don't know. You can have them in any order, and maybe McCreary at 2 is a little bit questionable, but even then, you have any of them in any order, I'm cool with it. You have Gardner, you have McCreary, you have McDuffie, you have Elon, any of them at CB2, I'm cool with it. So I'm going to be going with the, who I think is maybe CB3, CB2, I don't know. Like I said, all these guys are interchangeable for me. I'm going to go with Kiara Elon from Florida. Physical man press corner with good ball skills. He can be grabby, but what cornerback isn't grabby? So I think this is a great pick for the Vikings. You need corners so badly. Patrick Peterson's getting up there in age, and the rest of your corners are So Kiara Elam at 12.
I kind of like that. I think Kyrie Elam has been kind of slept on a little bit in this process. A lot of people have kind of written him off completely, and I still think he's a good player. So the Browns here at 13, I'm going to go with Drake London, who right now I have as my wide receiver 2 in this draft behind Garrett Wilson. I think the Browns desperately need wide receiver help up here. Got rid of Odell Beckham Jr. You need someone else to find out if Baker Mayfield can be the guy. I think you give Baker one more year. You got to surround him with more talent at receiver. I think Drake London is the best remaining receiver. This is good value for him, too. I have him right in this range. So Drake London, I think, will be a pretty slam dunk pick for the Browns here.
Ravens at 14. This is a joke. This is a joke that this guy fell here, but This is how the board worked. Akeem Ekwonu cancel the league because this is this might be my favorite player to team scheme fit of any player in this draft. This is such a slam dunk pick for the Ravens. You put him at right tackle, and instantly you have. I'm not saying he's the same player as him, but he's better than what Orlando Brown Jr. was. I can promise you that. Maybe not 2019, but shout out Marshall Yonder for kind of carrying him. But what can I say? Akeem Ekwonu is the best run blocker in this draft. This is a slam dunk pick. This is an A+ pick for the Ravens.
Yeah.
All right, so up with the Eagles. I might just stack their pick graphics because I get 2 picks in a row. We'll see. But I'm going to take Devin Lloyd at 15 and David Ojabo at 16, right? And the reason I order them that way is because you pay the linebacker more and you bring the edge price down a little bit. And if you extend David Ojabo later, then you can make it a little easier to get a cheaper extension with the more expensive positional player. That is something that will matter for the Eagles when they make these draft picks, when they have the back-to-back, is they can think about that. If Ojabo's higher on their board than Lloyd, they might still take him after Lloyd just because then you pay the guy less. But whatever. A little schemy there, I guess. But Devin Lloyd to me is linebacker 1 in this draft class. I think he is one of the few guys, probably the only guy I really have seen who I think can play any position, Will, Mike, or Sam. He is really one outside of, I think, a guy we'll get to later in this video, the best at playing, navigating traffic in the box, the best, the combination of speed and power, tackling ability. You don't really see everything in coverage from him, but I think in terms of zone ability, his instincts are pretty good. And I think his ability to kind of crack down on both tackles you're trying to overpower him and also be able to just outrun running backs. There's that athletic combo we look for in linebackers, and you see it production-wise. You've seen the tackles for loss. You've seen his pass rush ability. He played a little bit of edge for Utah, which, obviously we said about Micah Parsons last year. I don't think this guy is Micah Parsons, but I think in a weaker draft class, kind of seeing that makes him a more a higher pick for me in this draft class. And then and the Eagles obviously have been looking for linebacker positions for a long time. And then Ojabo is just a freak athlete to me. He's my edge 3, a guy who's very productive. Michigan obviously still learning to play football. We've talked about this in previous videos. Eagles have been excellent at developing defensive line talent, so this is a great fit for him. You know, Howie Roseman's going to want to take an edge player, and I believe that the ceiling there for him with what they have in terms of a veteran presence there already could be realized in Philadelphia.
All right, so let's recap picks 9 through 16 now. So the Broncos took Ahmad Sauce Gardner. The Jets took Tyler Linderbaum. The Commanders took Charles Cross. The Vikings took Kyer Elam. The Browns took Drake London. The Ravens took Ikem Ekwonu. The Eagles took Devin Lloyd. And the Eagles, again, took David Ojabo. And I'm up here with the Chargers at pick 17. I know a lot of Chargers fans probably want to beef up that defensive line. I actually think the biggest need for the Chargers is corner. You have Asante Samuel Jr., who's really good. But other than that, Michael Davis was your other outside corner. He was not very good at all. Chris Harris Jr., who is also hitting free agency, he's getting up there in age as well, and he wasn't really that great this year either. This, I think, is a slam dunk pick. This might be a hot take. I have Trent McDuffie as a top 10 player on my board right now. I love Trent McDuffie. I love Trent McDuffie. I think here at 17, you got your biggest need. You get a player who's maybe a top 10 prospect in this class at 17 at your biggest need. This is a slam dunk pick for the Chargers. I love the idea of Asante Samuel Jr. and Trent McDuffie next to each other in Los Angeles with Derwin James. That secondary is going to be terrifying.
Yeah, I don't hate that take at all. I mean, like I said, like all these cornerbacks, adjust them any way you want. Except I think Stanley's pretty clear-cut CB1, but literally adjust them any way you want. Saints at 18. Every Saints fan I know is pounding the table. And when I say pounding the table, I mean it's gotten to the point where the table is starting to break. That's how hard they're pounded. They want Jameson Williams so bad, and I agree. Get Jameson Williams. Get another wide receiver. Michael Thomas is great when he's healthy. But then again, maybe he doesn't come back the full same as he was. It's been 2 years of pretty bad injuries, but hopefully he does. But even if he does come back, you need another wide receiver. And I think Jameson Williams fits that spot perfectly. As long as the medicals check out, he's an easy top 20 pick, in my opinion. Amazing runner, just a great deep threat. I think this is a great pick for the Saints, who desperately need another weapon.
Back with the Eagles again. Just the middle of my draft is just going to be Eagles. Treylon Burks, wide receiver, Arkansas, a guy who's third wide receiver on my board. I don't have as high as some people who really like him do, but I think this guy is very interesting, especially when you have an offensive coordinator type coach who likes to get versatile with what he does in terms of his play calling. Nick Sirianni, obviously, it took him a little while to figure it out, but in terms of versatile pieces and kind of having a mobile QB, just like different unique pieces on that offense, really figured out that Eagles offense and made it work around what talent they have. I don't believe that he would have a hard time taking a guy who has a unique skill set in Treylon Burks, turning him into a guy that you can, hand the ball off to, get him quick screens, get him downfield, take advantage of his size, speed, ability, that combination that, quite frankly, looks like a running back playing wide receiver. He really is a unique type wide receiver prospect. It's going to be interesting to see how he gets used at the NFL level. And I think in terms of offenses that could turn him into something different and fun, Nick Sirianni for me does, although he might be one of the lower guys in terms of this, but he does qualify for that in terms of a guy who could turn him into something fun to watch at the NFL level.
So I have the Steelers here at 20. And frankly, with you two, I cannot believe you fell to 20. I thought Nick was going to take him with the Commanders pick at 11. I thought Donnie might have taken him with the Saints pick at 18. But if I'm a Steelers fan, dude, and I even am the low man on this guy, I am running this card in. Matt Corral, quarterback, Ole Miss, who both of you, I think, still have as QB1 in this class. I'm a little bit lower on Matt Corral, and I have him, I believe, at QB2. Yeah, QB2. But listen, man, this is really good value. This is right where I'd take him. And Malik Willis is like in the top 15 range. You get him at pick 20, which I know the Steelers, there's a lot of reports right now the Steelers are in love with Malik Willis, and they might even trade up to get him. And you say, oh, it's a smokescreen. Well, the Steelers basically told everyone on planet Earth that they were taking Najee Harris like 2 months before draft time. And that actually happened. So I don't know if the Steelers are a team that really plays their cards close to the chest here. But Matt Corral, I think, would be awesome in Pittsburgh, and I would love this pick for the Steelers here at 20.
Patriots at 21. They need a couple things. Cornerbacks in play. I think wide receiver is in big play. because the best weapon is probably Hunter Henry. So desperately need a weapon, and I'm going to go with the best wide receiver who I think fits them the best. Jahan Dotson, wide receiver, Penn State. Now, I do think he's slot only in the NFL, but that's fine. Even if he is slot only in the NFL, I think that's perfectly fine. Good catch radius, especially for his size. Not a great runner, good route runner, great speed. Produced very well in the Big Ten. I think this is a great fit for the Patriots, who do desperately need a wide receiver because N'Keal Harry was a mess.
Raiders are, let's compare them to the Falcons because I think it's really similar. I think they've been trying to rebuild that defense for so long, and they just keep losing like some things on their offense. They need to, to fix that over and over again, and they never get into a position where they can, be consistently good on offense through an offseason and just build their defense up. So here they are again, and like receiver and offensive line are needs again for this team, for a team that really has been built around the passing attack for the past few years. And so for me, I'm going to take Chris Olave at 22. I think this is about where I would take him. He's not maybe the same player as Henry Ruggs, but he has that deep threat ability. I think you add a little bit more in terms of the intermediate and short game with his route running ability. The guy who is productive and experienced in college. Honest to God, I don't think the Raiders have had enough of that type of talent. They seem to take these big swings. So a guy that I think a lot of these receivers are like high floor type prospects would be a different type of draft pick for Las Vegas. I don't know that they would actually take this guy, but if they do go this direction, it gives their passing game a floor that could, if they bring back Derek Carr, and even I think with Marcus Mariota, because I'm a believer in him, could give them a chance to be a wild card team again next year.
I got my Arizona Cardinals at 23, and there's a lot of Kyler Murray situation going on right now. I don't really know what's up with that. But if I were to take a guess, I don't think it's that big of a deal. But we'll see what happens. I mean, honestly, it's not the craziest thing. Maybe they possibly trade him and take a quarterback here, but hopefully that doesn't happen. So I'm going to go with probably a guy who the Cardinals desperately need. We need a cornerback so bad. And I've been saying for the longest time, any of those top 5 guys, slam dunk picks for the Cardinals. And one of them is left. And that guy is Roger McCreary, corner out of Auburn. Played consistently good in the SEC, then exploded this year, which I love. I love production, especially in the SEC. So Roger McCreary at the Cardinals at 23. You need a corner. Just go get your guy.
Yeah, so 24 is Dallas, and I've been mocking them like a lot of secondary and safety, and Jordan Battle's been going to them. Jordan Battle's not in this draft class anymore. That was a joke we had going. We mocked him like 3 or 4 times to Dallas. So it can't happen again. Crazy thing with this draft so far is that because we've been taking corners and receivers high, a couple quarterbacks, all these edge players have fallen, and George Karlaftis was still on the board. So guess what? He's going to go straight to Dallas. We're going to let Randy Gregory walk, who I actually like a lot, and they're going to bring in a guy who I think, probably has a similar impact, if not more, when he develops. Power rusher opposite DeMarcus Lawrence opens things up for Micah Parsons to, again, have that impact he had as a pass rusher from the linebacker position this past season.
All right, so let's go over picks 17 through 24. Chargers took Trent McDuffie. Saints took Jamison Williams. Eagles took Treylon Burks. Steelers took Matt Corral. Patriots took Jahan Dotson. Raiders took Chris Olave. Cardinals taking Roger McCreary. And the Cowboys getting George Karlaftis. Kind of a steal there at 24. I couldn't believe he fell that far. Donnie, where are you going to Buffalo, pick 25?
So Buffalo fans, listen, I know you don't want offensive line, at least from everyone that's been talking to me. I'm giving you an offensive lineman because you want to protect your franchise quarterback, and frankly, I don't think your offensive line is very good to start with, and we saw what happened with Patrick Mahomes when his offensive line was bad. So I'm going to be taking a guy who I don't really know is good, but maybe he is good, Kenyon Green, the center, guard, tackle, anything. I think he's a guard, but we don't really know what he is. You can try him out at 3 different positions and see if it works. The thing with this guy is that he switched positions every other game when he was at Texas A&M last year, so we don't really know if he is good, but the versatility alone makes this guy first-round pick.
So the Titans are up, and I know Bud Dupree and Harold Landry actually worked for them along with Nico Autry, adding all those pieces and getting Landry to break out. In terms of their pass rush this year, the pass rush was really pretty good. Jeffrey Simmons is there. I think there's a possibility to let Harold Landry walk and need to replace him. I think there's a chance they pay him too. Let's just say for the sake of this exercise that they let him walk, because at this point in this draft, I have the same grade for Karlaftis as I do, who's 1 spot below David Ojabo. Well, I have the same grade on this guy, who's now 1 spot below George Karlaftis, and that is Jermaine Johnson, the edge from Florida State, who to me, A lot of people are making this comparison. Looks a lot like a smaller Montez Sweat. A guy was super productive in 1 year here at the end of the time at Florida State. Had a really good Senior Bowl. I think in terms of his pass rush toolbox, he has a lot more than most guys do coming out. And he has that athleticism that you don't see at the edge rush position so much for a guy with that toolbox. Because normally guys, when you develop moves, they do it early on because they don't have the athleticism to win. He has 4.5 40 time. He has, better size. He has, NFL size. He's 260, and he has the length that I think will get him going NFL level. This is a guy that I expect to probably go higher in the draft than this. And if he falls to this point, even if they do re-sign Harold Landry, I wouldn't be shocked if your team has 2 edge rushers, just says, hey, let's take the value pick and just get Johnson.
So I have the Buccaneers here at 27, and this is a team who now without Tom Brady, they need help at quarterback. And there have been reports that they're looking to be in the sweepstakes for maybe someone like Russell Wilson, maybe someone like Kyle Trask is there, but the Kyler Murray rumors, I don't think that's even true at all, but we'll see. But listen, here at 27, this guy who actually fell a little bit, and I think this is probably around where I take him, is Kenny Pickett, the quarterback from Pitt, who didn't really have a great Senior Bowl. There's a lot of questions over his hand size, which hopefully will be answered at the Combine. But I still think he was so good in his last season at Pitt that he's worth a look in the first round. Even with all of the concerns over his hand size and whatever, I still think this is a quarterback worth taking in the first round. And I think the Buccaneers here at 27, this is a good value for them. And I think with there in Tampa Bay, he might fit a lot what Byron Leftwich is looking to do there and Bruce Arians. And I think this is a pretty good value for them.
Yeah, and you probably wouldn't have to change the offense. I mean, he's obviously not Tom Brady, but you probably don't need to change the offense a whole lot just in terms of playing style, bringing in Pickett there with what they've done already with Bruce Arians. Packers are up 28. I've avoided mocking them linebackers like for the last 4 years just because I think although it's been a need, like they've ignored largely more important positions in the draft. But at this point, Nakobe Dean's on the board. I don't think anyone would be upset about the Packers taking a value pick here with Nakobe Dean. I just talked about how much I like Devin Lloyd over him in this draft. I still think Dean's a great prospect. Obviously, I think he has the best ability in terms of outside the C gap covering the run game of any player in this draft. I think he's more likely to match up man-to-man with tight ends and running backs than the other linebacker in this draft. And he's a little bit undersized. We're seeing this more with linebackers, but he has the necessary power. And obviously that sideline-to-sideline speed to succeed at the next level. And he was just great at Georgia this year in a fantastic defense. Big part of why they won the national championship.
Only Aaron Rodgers probably would hate that pick. That's probably the only guy.
Well, he's probably not going to be there, so we don't know what's up with that. Shout out Jordan Love. But I got the Dolphins here at 29 via the Trey Lance trade. Listen, I don't really think the majority of the offensive tackles outside of the top 3 should go round 1. But if I'm the Dolphins, you are just so down bad on your offensive line. You need somebody. Just need someone. So I'm going to be taking my tackle 4, and that's Trevor Penning out of UNI. I like him a bit more than Bernard Raymond, especially after that Senior Bowl. Neither of them were relatively particularly good, but I thought Trevor Penning was just a little bit better, and that answered a few of my questions about the competition level. But then again, I also think back to his former teammate, Spencer Brown, who I was extremely low on, who was just a freak athlete who played against just wet noodles of a team. I guess shout out Tate for that sentence. But I mean, you look at him, Spencer Brown's been decent in the NFL. I mean, for crying out loud, he's starting year 1, which that was the last thing I expected. And he wasn't great, but he wasn't bad, like to his standards. And he could take a huge leap next year, especially with that athleticism. So I'm just going to take Trevor Penning here because the Dolphins just need offensive tackle.
So I have the Chiefs here at pick 30, and this is a guy who I consistently have going in the first round because I refuse to let him fall out of the first round. And I know I'm the only one probably in the world who has this guy as a first-round pick. That is Nick Bonito, the edge from Oklahoma, who I love in this class. This is a guy I'm way higher on than I don't
He's not the first overall pick, Max?
No, he's not the first overall pick. You get good value here at pick 30. Who I dropped a little bit on my board, I will say. He's like probably like a top 20, top 25 player on my board, but I still think the production that he had at Oklahoma was so ridiculous. The Chiefs need help on the defensive line, and I think that Nick Bonito would really help them out. And I love Nick Bonito. I think he should be a first-round pick.
Max sees Lawrence Taylor and Nick Bonito.
Yes, that's my comp.
Bengals at 31. So When we get into the big board, I'm probably going to break this down a little bit more, but I think this draft is pretty weak from 1 to 25. I don't think there's a lot of that. That's, by the way, I say that because I have 25 first round grades. There's not a lot. 26 to 48, though, all 23 of those players, I have a 1-point difference in the grading scale. So I think you're going to see a lot of this back end of the first, early second. Teams are just going to take what they need. Because I don't really think there's a big difference between these players. So I don't think Bernard Raymond for me is a first round, like, certain guy. But I do think the Bengals need to continue to look at offensive line talent. And this is a guy who hasn't played a lot of football yet. He came over from Austria. He was a tight end. He became an offensive lineman. Obviously, because he was a tight end, he has that athletic potential. It's kind of similar with Linderbaum, who was a defensive lineman, became a center. And he had a good year at Central Michigan and has just continued to grow as a player. And he has this projectable ceiling as an NFL offensive tackle on the left side that could be very intriguing for a team like Cincinnati, who just needs to continue to pump through offensive line talent to protect Joe Burrow.
Yeah, good pick. Rams here. I'm sorry, not the Rams. I forget because they never have any draft picks. They don't have a draft pick till I'm a grandpa. But Lions here. You need cornerback so bad. And I debate this guy all the time. Is he a first-round pick? Maybe he is. I don't know. I'm low on this guy, but I still think he's a really solid prospect. I'm going to be taking Andrew Booth Jr. Jeff Okudah has not worked out at all. He's been injured, and even when he played in his first year, he was horrible. But maybe he could come back and make some type of a bounce back. At least we hope so. But you need cornerback so bad, and I think Andrew Booth being the best cornerback on the board, you just kind of had to take it because I don't really think there's a wide receiver worth taking as a first-round pick as of now. We'll see what happens after the combine with George Pickens possibly, but I think Booth as of right now is a better prospect than Pickens, so I'll take Booth.
So let's go over picks 25 through 32. The Bills took Kenyon Green. The Titans took Jermaine Johnson. Buccaneers took Kenny Pickett. Packers took Nakobe Dean. Dolphins took Trevor Penning. Chiefs took Nick Bonito. The Bengals took Bernard Raymond. And the Lions took Andrew Booth Jr. So, like I mentioned before, we did a full second round as well. So how we're going to do this, I'm just going to read off the first 8 picks, and then we're going to talk about a pick that we made that we kind of like and that we want to talk about more. So Jaguars here at 33 took George Pickens, the wide receiver from Georgia. Lions took David Bell, wide receiver Purdue. Jets took Jaquan Brisker, safety from Penn State. Giants took Myjai Sanders, the edge from Cincinnati. The Texans took Arnold Ebiketie, the edge from Penn State. The Jets again took Boye Mafe, the edge from Minnesota. The Bears took Darian Kennard, their first pick of this draft, the offensive tackle, offensive guard, whatever you want to call him, from Kentucky. And the Broncos took Desmond Ridder, the quarterback from Cincinnati. So, Nick, what pick do you want to talk about from pick 33 to 40?
So, yeah, let's talk about the Texans again. Like I said, top player on the board is what I'm going to be going for with them at all times. Arnold Ebiketie is a guy who has really risen up the board for me. He is a top 32 player. I have a high second on him because of how this has worked out. We talked about it before. Only 25 first-round grades, so he's a high second. But he would be a first-round pick if I could ideally put my top 32 in. For me, he's a guy that I think is a fine athlete. I don't think he's a great athlete. He's whatever. But we talked about this kind of with Jermaine Johnson, how when you see guys with great pass rush toolbox, it's because they didn't necessarily have the best athletic tools to just use when they're in college and rely on. He's a guy, because of that, who I think is really refined as a pass rusher, more than you see most guys coming out. And you saw that kind of show up in his production at Penn State this year. Had a really good final year this year. Rose up a lot of teams' draft boards. Still has a chance, I think, to test better than most people think, and that could solidify him, in my opinion, as a first-round talent. But I think if you're Houston, you get another guy who hopefully boosts that defense and that roster overall. They just need to take good players at positions of value. And at this point, getting an edge rusher, I think, makes a lot of sense for them.
Yeah, so I have the Jets here, and I took a guy who I am getting really high on, and I think I have him as a first-round grade right now, Boye Mafe, the edge from Minnesota, who is a freak athlete. I know Donnie doesn't love that I have him as a first-round grade right now, but I love Boye Mafe, dude. I think he is a stud. I think his tape is really good. He's not a great run defender, but he's a really good pass rusher. He's a freak athlete. I'm going to mention it one more time before the combine. Number 17 on Bruce Feldman's Freaks list. And he was freaking dominant at the Senior Bowl. A lot of love is going to Jermaine Johnson, and deservedly so. He was fantastic at the Senior Bowl. But Boye Mafe, what he did at the Senior Bowl, I thought may have been even better than what we saw from Jermaine Johnson. So I have Boye Mafe here going to the Jets, who I think need edge help, and this is good value at 38 here for the Jets, in my opinion.
Not in my opinion, but that's okay. I'm going to be talking about a team who doesn't have a first-round pick, and that's the Chicago Bears. Shout out, who was the GM? Who was the old GM?
Oh, Ryan Pace.
Ryan Pace, thank you.
Yeah.
It's been a long day so far. Bears at 39. They don't have a first-round pick, like I said, so I'm going to be talking about the probably the only pick that has a chance to work out, knowing it's the Bears. Derani Kennard. I can't pronounce his name.
Yeah.
Darian. I just can't pronounce. I'm all over the place right now. Darian Kennard, tackle, guard, Kentucky. I think he's a tackle. I think he's actually
okay.
I think he's a tackle going in the league. You drafted Tevin Jenkins last year, who was okay, showed flashes, but I still think Tevin Jenkins could be really good. You need to improve that offensive line. I actually like the Bears' interior. I actually think it's not that bad. I think their interior is. I think their tackles is what their main issue is.
Mm-hmm.
I think their interior isn't actually as bad as people are saying. So I think you put Kennard at right tackle. You have Tevin Jenkins on the left, and I think that's a decent offensive line. I know they really need a wide receiver, but with George Pickens and David Bell off the board, I just didn't really feel like there was a wide receiver worth taking right here. So you got to improve your probably second biggest need, and that's your offensive line. And I think Kennard fits that very, very nice.
Yeah, him and Larry Borum, man, those two killers on the offensive line for Chicago. All right, so let's go to picks 41 through 48. Recap those. So the Seahawks took Kyler Gordon, the corner from Washington. The Commanders took Devontae Wyatt, D tackle, Georgia. Falcons took Travis Jones, D tackle from UConn. Browns took Kingsley Enagbare, the edge from South Carolina. Ravens took DeMarvin Leal, the D tackle from Texas A&M. Vikings took Zion Johnson, the offensive guard from Boston College. The Colts took Khalil Shakir, the wide receiver from Boise State. And the Chargers took Wan'Dale Robinson, wide receiver from Kentucky. So, Nick, let's start with you again. What pick do you want to talk about here?
The Commanders, there's two ways that I kind of want to look at this pick. First thing is that I think that obviously your defensive line talent is great, but you're not paying all of them. You just paid Allen. I think you got to pay A to A plus guys in the NFL. You can't just pay dudes you think are good, not great. Next guy they would have to pay is Daron Payne. I think he's a B, maybe B plus talent. I don't want to give that guy a huge contract. So I think you're going to let him walk. I think, honestly, you're probably going to let Montez Sweat walk and end up signing Chase Young if Chase Young becomes what you think he's going to be, because you're not going to pay $60 million worth for edge rushers. That's completely ridiculous. So you are going to have to draft more defensive line talent at some point. And for me, Devontae Wyatt is a guy who has emerged to me as kind of a Christian Barmore-like talent with less play on the field, in my opinion. So he's going to be a little lower on my board than I had Barmore, but I still think Wyatt, for me, is my top interior player in this draft. And I think if the Commanders want to replenish their interior talent, they've gotten a lot out of having rotational players. They're probably going to see Tim Settle walk. They might not get Ioannidis back next year. They need that depth. I think it's important to have depth at your important position groups. Devontae Wyatt could step in and be an upgrade, in my opinion, over Daron Payne once he walks. And then the other thing about this is I didn't get a quarterback. And I gambled on it. I alluded to it earlier. I tried to wheel quarterback back on the other side, and I wanted Desmond Ridder, didn't get him. This is a real possibility that I think should be scary if you're a Washington fan. If they don't trade for a quarterback here in free agency, figure that out early, and they go into the draft and they don't like guy at 11 and wait for 42, you could get stuck in a position where the only guy you really could take is Carson Strong, who I have as a late second. I really wouldn't spend this pick on him. Maybe you trade back, but there's a chance you don't even like him and don't want to do that. So I think it's really a high possibility that they go after a quarterback here in free agency in a trade, because you don't want to be in a position where you just, we didn't get a quarterback at all now just because of the luck of the board, and now we're stuck with just Taylor Heineke and Kyle Allen going forwards.
I'm calling it right now. Mitch Trubisky will be a quarterback on Washington.
He probably will be.
And honestly, I don't hate it. I really, really don't hate it. I know Max is laughing.
As long as there's somebody behind him. If we can develop someone, sure. If he's the only guy, I might have some issues.
Develop Taylor Heineke.
Yeah.
I mean, would you rather have Taylor Heineke?
29-year-old.
Would you rather have Taylor Heineke or Mitchell Trubisky? My answer is Mitchell Trubisky.
Probably Mitchell Trubisky, yeah.
Yeah, probably Mitch.
Because,
get Mariota in there, man. Mariota will be fun.
I like Mariota. I've been on the Mariota team this whole time. I thought Mike Mularkey, we're getting way off topic, but I thought Mike Mularkey misused the heck out of him, and he hasn't got a chance since. Yeah. I thought that one Thursday night game you saw him duel with Herbert is like what he could be. I'm still waiting for him to get his chance. So that's
yeah. I got to start topic. That's my bad. Ravens at 45. I think you just need to improve your pass rush in general, and I'm going to take a guy who I think can play defensive tackle and edge rusher, and that's DeMarvin Leal. And a lot of people are wondering, wow, DeMarvin Leal really fell. Well, I think this is about the range that I'd probably take him. After the Senior Bowl, I really started to fall a bit low on DeMarvin Leal, and I think there's been some guys that have been risers on my board, mainly Travis Jones and Devontae Wyatt. I think both of them have surpassed DeMarvin Leal as possibly the best defensive tackle in the draft. So... And I still think DeMarvin Leal is a good player, but kind of had a down year this year. And you are getting a high ceiling with him. I will say that you're getting a high ceiling with him. Definitely. But at the same time, I just don't think he's a first-round pick anymore. And I think the Ravens here at 45. This is good value for him, though. As a mid-second-round pick, this is a very good value on a team that blitzes a ton and you could use more pass rushers like this.
Yeah, I think I love the fit in Baltimore, especially him and Kemikwano, dude. I think that's a slam dunk A+ draft from Donnie there.
Yeah.
All right, so Chargers here at 48. This is a guy who Donnie told me before we started recording that TikTok is all over, and I'm going to talk about him. Maybe get some TikTok people on my side here. I think the Chargers need help at wide receiver. I really wanted a defensive tackle, and I was really targeting Devontae Wyatt, who I have a first-round grade on, Travis Jones, who I like a lot too, and DeMarvin Leal. And all three were taken right from under me. So the Chargers here at 48, I couldn't do what I wanted to take a D tackle. So I'm going to go with another need that I think they have, and that is wide receiver, Wan'Dale Robinson. I'm taking the wide receiver from Kentucky. This dude is shifty, man. He's kind of like the Kadarius Toney of this year's class. I don't think he's as good of a prospect as Toney was, but man, he just gets open. He's a really good route runner, and you get the ball in his hands, and he can make people look foolish. And I think him with Keenan Allen and maybe Mike Williams, depending on if you sign him or not, you get those three together, or maybe you let Mike Williams walk and you have Keenan Allen and Wan'Dale Robinson. Those guys are going to be breaking ankles all over the league. So I think Wan'Dale Robinson here at 48, who I have a pretty high second-round grade on him. I think this is good value and a big need for the Chargers here, at 48. So let's go over picks 41 through 48 one more time. I said, actually, no, let's not do that. I completely missed about that. So let's go to 49. I was thinking about the first round. Let's go to pick 49. Saints took Daxton Hill, the safety / corner from Michigan. The Dolphins took Kenneth Walker III, RB1 in this mock draft from Michigan State. Eagles took Lewis Seen, the safety from Georgia. Steelers took Abraham Lucas, the offensive tackle from Washington State. Patriots took Fidarian Mathis, D tackle Alabama. Raiders took Jordan Davis. It finally happened. Jordan Davis, the D tackle from Georgia. Probably a little too late for Donnie's liking, but still, he goes to the Las Vegas Raiders.
Pick, baby.
The Cardinals took Drake Jackson, the edge from USC, and the Cowboys took Logan Hall, the D tackle from Houston. So, Donnie, let's start with you. What pick do you want to talk about?
So I would talk about my Cardinals because I'm always down to talk about my Cardinals, but I'm going to talk about another team. RB1, Kenneth Walker to the Dolphins. I'm in, man. I'm all in. I think he's arguably just as good of a prospect as Najee Harris, and I know Nick hated Najee Harris, which is understandable. So maybe when I
don't
say
hate anybody, just disliked him a little more than most.
But no, I think Kenneth Walker is the best running back in the draft, man. I mean, when you watch this guy, he's Tony Pollard. He's Tony Pollard without the receiving ability. And even then, that's still a good running back. I love Kenneth Walker. He's a very strong, fast runner, and maybe not as fast as Tony Pollard, because Tony Pollard is really fast. I think this guy just finds the lanes, and he's just very, very good in general. Like, there's not really much to say about this guy. I just love Kenneth Walker as a prospect, and I wouldn't take him in the first round. Let's calm down about that. No running back should go round one, except maybe like Saquon Barkley, like level prospect. And even then, I don't know about that. Because we saw what happened with him after some injuries happened. But Kenneth Walker, I feel like if there is a team that desperately needs a running back, and I'd be cool with taking in the second round, it's Kenneth Walker to the Dolphins, man.
I think this is probably a weaker running back class than last year by a good margin.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Because I honestly, and I do want to say this real quick as a hot take, I would have considered taking Javonte Williams in the late first round to like Buffalo. Like, if Buffalo would have taken Javonte Williams, I wouldn't have hated it. I really wouldn't have hated it.
No.
Would have been interesting. All right, so back to the Eagles. Talking about them a lot, but I have been taking Lewis Seen, the safety from Georgia. Guy who's rocketed up my board is now safety 2 for me. He's actually my number 36 overall player. I'm sorry, Max. I pushed Jaquan Brisker down the board a little bit. My bad.
I love Seen, though. I do love Seen.
Rough scene for Penn State over here.
I have a first-round grade on Lewis Seen, dude. I love Lewis Seen.
Yeah, he's a good player. And when I see him, I see Cam Curl. Like, I see a guy that to me is just like similar size, similar measurables. I think he's a dominant box player at the safety position who can go out and cover in the slot. I think it's the same type of thing. But I don't know that he's necessarily going to play as much as a slot tight end coverage guy as Cam Curl is. I think he has some too deep ability. You didn't see it as much at Georgia because they really try to get him around the football a lot. That being said, I think there is a lot of value to that versatility. I'd like to see more in coverage, but I think that ability could be there. And to me, he's a guy that I would take a flyer on early in the second round, maybe even late first round. I like him a lot. I think the Eagles are I know they signed Anthony Harris on a 1-year deal. We'll be looking for more safety talent. I think this is a great value for a guy like Lewis Seen.
Yeah, I think it's excellent value. I got Steelers here at 52, and this is a guy who I actually think is the best offensive tackle after the Big Five. So you got Evan Neal, Kemaquano, Charles Cross, Bernard Raymond, Trevor Penning, all who are gone. Abraham Lucas, who I have always loved because he has been an excellent pass protector in the Pac-12 at Washington State with Mike Leach for a little bit until Mike Leach left to Mississippi State. And it was always like he was an awesome pass blocker, and the run blocking leaves something to be desired, which you could say for a lot of offensive tackles under Mike Leach. We talked about with Charles Cross already. Abraham Lucas, he was a guy who I was really circling going into the Senior Bowl, saying, "Hey, I'm really excited to see how this guy performs." He was the best offensive tackle at the Senior Bowl, probably. He was absolutely incredible, and I really have. All my questions for him, there are still run blocking concerns, but I think this is a guy who's firmly a second-round prospect for me now, and I love the value here for the Steelers, who they took a quarterback in Matt Corral, but that might not be your biggest need because the offensive line is a freaking disaster, and so the Steelers really need help on the offensive line too. I think you get Matt Corral and Abraham Lucas. That's a pick I would love for Pittsburgh to make. So let's go through the final 8 picks of the second round now. The Bills took Sky Moore, the wide receiver from Western Michigan. The Falcons took Trayvon Walker, the edge from Georgia. Packers took Jalen Tolbert, wide receiver, South Alabama. Buccaneers took Leo Chenal, the linebacker from Wisconsin. 49ers took Daniel Falele, offensive tackle, Minnesota. Chiefs took Martin Emerson, corner, Mississippi State. Bengals took Christian Harris, linebacker from Alabama. And the Broncos took Tyreek Smith, edge from Ohio State. So, Donnie, who do you want to talk about here?
Sky Moore to Buffalo. I'm in, man. I'm all in on Sky Moore. I think he's awesome. He's better than Anthony Schwartz, and he might be faster than Anthony Schwartz. I think Sky Moore might be one of the fastest prospects in general I've seen in a long time. He's faster than Waddle, faster than Ruggs, faster than Schwartz, faster than Hollywood. He is one of the fastest wide receivers I have seen in a long time. He might break the combine record. He might.
Wow.
He might. I think Sky Moore is ridiculously fast. And just pair him up with Josh Allen, who has the strongest arm in the league. And listen, I'm just going to go ahead and say it because apparently the only thing I do is compare people to Hall of Famers. Apparently Sky Moore is going to be the next Tyreek Hill. So, no, but in all seriousness, I think Sky Moore would be such a great slot wide receiver for them with his just unique speed. Cole Beasley's most likely going to be leaving the free agency. There's been rumors about Emmanuel Sanders retiring. You have Stephon Diggs. You have Gabriel Davis. You put Sky Moore in the slot with his speed. I mean, just think about it. It's Josh Allen who has the strongest arm in the league, and Sky Moore, when the moment he gets into the NFL, second fastest player in the league behind Tyreek Hill.
Wow.
I mean, just
I can't wait for this combine, dude. Yeah, I mean, just combine that together. I mean, you basically have. And listen, I'm not saying he's going to be Tyreek Hill, but he could be a baby version of that, and that's with the second round pick. Yeah, I like that a lot. And yeah, you mentioned like Gabriel Davis, not really fast. Stephon Diggs ran like a 4.45. Like you need some speed there in Buffalo. I think Sky Moore would be great there. So the Buccaneers here at 60. I'm going to go with Leo Chenal, the linebacker from Wisconsin, and he's a guy who I like a lot in this linebacker class. I do think there's a clear 2 for this linebacker class. Clear 2, and then a big drop off. He's probably my linebacker 3 though in this draft. And he's not great in coverage, but he's a really, really awesome run defender and probably the best run defending linebacker in this entire draft. And going downhill is a great blitzer too. He's just a downhill player. The issues are in coverage, but listen, he's very athletic, really good downhill player. And the Buccaneers low-key have a linebacker problem right now because I don't think Devin
White is not good.
Devin White is not a very good, man. And I'll give him more time until his rookie contract runs out, but he hasn't been very good. So I think the Buccaneers could stand to add a linebacker, and I think Leo Chenal will be great for them.
Yes, we'll probably end up talking about linebackers a lot because it's an interesting position group. But I have those two guys, Lloyd and Dean, are my top 25 players. And then I've got in that range of 26 to 48 that I just talked about, no linebackers. Yeah. I think there's a bunch of linebackers that are interesting, like mid to late second, early third type guys. Leo Chenal is one of them. Chad Muma, Brandon Smith, Brian Asamoah, bunch of guys that'll be interesting. A guy that ends up being linebacker 3 for me I don't know if we talked about him in a previous video or not, maybe during the summer, and we all said, I don't really see it, is Christian Harris. And I think a lot of that came from this season, seeing him play a little bit more for Alabama, kind of play that Mike role consistently and really have a lot of impact in big games for Alabama as a box player against the run, but as a pass rusher too. He's not really, a guy that you're going to set up there and have him just be a coverage player. But in terms of like a twitchier, strong, not big as Nick Bolton, but strong and kind of fast version of him. I think if you're looking for that Nick Bolton type Mike impact that you saw the Chiefs go for in the draft last year, you want a guy who can kind of call your signals, make the tackles to the box. Don't let a team just gash you in the run game if you're one of these defenses now that's sitting back and trying to make sure the big plays don't get taken up. Christian Harris, for me, is the number one guy who could just kind of plug in there and be your run defender. And I like that from a value perspective here for the Bengals, who I think kind of are in a spot where I'd like to take another offensive lineman, but I liked Harris as the top player on my board. I think they could do a little bit better at that position group.
So that's what we got for our 6th mock draft, our full 2-round mock draft. We're going to do more mock drafts in the future. I asked this question to our commenters below, and they all seemed in on us doing maybe a mock draft if everybody was eligible, which I think could be fun. So I'm talking like Caleb Williams. I'm talking even like Quinn Ewers, anyone like that. We're going to maybe do a mock draft for that too, which could be fun. But listen, this is what we got. Make sure you guys comment below. If you guys hated this mock draft, if you really hated your team's pick, let us know. Let us know in the comments below. If you love your team's pick, please let us know in the comments below. If we were just fine, let us know in the comments below as well. And let us know what videos you guys want to see us do next. We're probably going to be slowing down scouting reports because now we're going to have our big board coming out. We're going to do some more broader topics in the NFL draft rather than just focusing on one player. So if there's any broad topic you guys want us to cover, let us know in the comments below. We read every single one of your comments, and we love getting our ideas from you guys. So again, please like and subscribe, comment below, rate us 5 stars on Apple, follow all of us on social media, follow @BoomerBust on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. That's what we got for our 6th mock draft. So for Nick Merriam and Donny Clemons, I'm Max Chadwick. Have a great night.